Warm welcome and good morning from my side to our next session before we will have a break. Masterclass with the title Implementation of Patient-Specific Solutions at Point of Care. And although we have heard a lot in the speech before, I'm very proud to present now Shiden Yohannes. He is Medical Market Development Manager from Formlabs, and he will talk about medical device manufacturing with Formlabs Healthcare. Welcome on stage, Shiden.
Okay, so hi everyone, and thank you for finding the time today to listen to today's presentation, which is called Medical Device Manufacturing with Formlabs Healthcare. Shortly about myself, my name is Shiden. I'm the Medical Market Development Manager, and it means that I'm globally focusing with a variety of customers just on medical application and see what we can do to bring the medical or the healthcare sector actually forward. And shortly about Formlabs, who are we? Just two sentences. So Formlabs design and manufactures professional 3D printing hardware, software and materials for prototyping and production. And what you can see over here are on the left side, the machines which are belonging to the stereolithography, and on the right side, the selective laser sintering technology. So those are the two technologies that we offer today. And with over 30,000 printers sold just in the healthcare section. So if we are talking outside of healthcare, we are talking about more than 130,000 machines. But just in the healthcare section, 30,000 machines shows the bright applications or like what customers are really doing and how we are pushing the medical sector. And I think it's quite impressive to see what we are doing. And if we are just looking over here at the stage, there are a variety of customers and partners that are bringing actually innovative solutions right now into the market. Let's start, for example, with just Dr. Nea, who presented from the University Hospital Basel with Dr. Thüringer, for example. You are contributing really great innovation and clinical outcome to the oral and maxillofacial surgery. And your work is definitely a statement what AM Solution can do for point of care and the clinical outcome. And thank you so much for working closely together. The same counts for Lizard Healthcare Technology, for example, with Christoph Geisert, who is an innovative CEO who brings really outstanding medical devices to the market with 3D printing. And thank you for using Formlabs for such great medical devices. But it's even going further. We are talking about Dr. Michael Ott, for example, from Siemens Healthineers, that we work closely together with. We evaluated biocompatible materials and biocompatible applications, and having Siemens Healthineers and Dr. Michael Ott on our side and showcasing how or what the proof of concept is for giant companies like Siemens Healthineers showed me also what we can do and what we need to deliver, and we could deliver it. So thank you, Dr. Michael Ott, from learning from your extensive test that you did on our biocompatible materials. We can even go further with Arnaud Valls, for example, and also, of course, Nura Adel Gomez, which is not here anymore, but also both of them from the Barcelona Children's Hospital, for example, pushing patients or patient care, especially for younger patients and their family, and making it possible to change their life. And the same is with Maria, of course, who is bringing also technology from the training center technology, actually, and her work reflects definitely, advancing knowledge and skills throughout the medicine. And thank you for all the work that you do. I might miss someone, but I'm sorry for that because there are a lot of people. But let's go further. We have our in-house material development and production, meaning that we have just in material scientists over 60. So that means 60 scientists are just focusing on bringing new materials into the market to bring new applications into the market. And that's what we are going for. And actually, right now, on both technologies, we have 45 materials available, pushing medical applications forward. Next slide is here, just the SLA library. The SLS library is not mentioned over there, and even over here, it's not all the materials. But what I want to show you on that slide is the gigantic material library that you have and what you can actually do with it. So from The bottom right, medical resins, actually from rigid even to flexible and soft biocompatible resins. The dental resins, which are also quite interesting because of their biocompatible level, but also other resins like PU-based resins, castable wax-based resins that you can burn out. So the ceramic resins like alumina, the applications are quite broad based on those materials. And yeah, but at the end of the day, it's our customers that bring innovation into medicine. And yeah, right over here, what we can see is the biocompatible test that we have conducted on our materials. So we are doing a lot of biocompatible tests to kind of ensure that our materials are on a safe side. But of course, this is just highlighting how we conducted the test on ourselves. But we also have a lot of medical device manufacturers proving that all of these tests can be done by yourself. So meaning just because we can do it doesn't mean that every material is always biocompatible. You need to ensure yourself that your workflow or your process is clean as it is written down in our instruction for use to remain this high biocompatibility level. And the same counts also for our SLS materials. But as a manufacturer of the 3D printers, the most remarkable stories are actually emerged by our customers. And what we are trying to do is, of course, to facilitate new application based and achieved through, for example, developing innovative materials. So that means creating new resins and new powders with different material properties, which are often inspired by our customer base. We also ensure material safety with sterilization reports that we can conduct, but also biocompatibility tests, but also a user-friendly design. That means we do not just do the printer, we also do the software, combined to the hardware, making it as easy as possible as a complete workflow. And then, of course, facilitate compliance. We got a great regulatory team where we are willing to support our customers. And what we can do is definitely from our side, be as transparent as we can and also give all the documents that we can. That means from our side, the time is running, I need to hurry up. From our side, actually, the value chain, until it gets into your door, can be super clean, and that's what we need to do. But then it's going further from your side that you need to make sure that from your state on, you produce it as it's supposed to be. But now let's talk about customer examples. And I want to start with Restore 3D, for example. So Restore 3D is a company that pushing patient-specific and custom-made medical devices to the edge. They have several technologies, not just Formlabs, and with the, I think 3D Systems machine, they do implants, so they use titanium alloys as well as cobalt chrome, for example, for their implants. None of the Formlabs resin can be used for implants, but what they do with the Formlabs photopolymers is everything around that implant, meaning trials, meaning inserters, meaning surgical guides, anatomical models, and the range that you can do with such polymers are great. And what I really like about Restore 3D is that everything is kind of patient-specific, or let's say, for example, the implant is made for the patient, and the handle, the inserter, is made for the surgeon. So that means it's really customized based on a specific department and based on the need of the patient and the surgeon to make a precise surgery. The next company is MTS Medical UG. So MTS Medical UG have their headquarters in Constance, Germany. They also operate on a fleet of machines of Form 3BLs and Form 3Bs. If I'm jumping back to Restore 3D, they have 25 machines operating 24/7. MTS Medical, I think, is around about 10 machines, so Form 3BLs and Form 3Bs. Producing a variety of medical applications. So they are specialized in electrohydraulic extracorporeal shockwave technologies. And I think it's a quite interesting use case what they do, and a lot of more people are doing it right now. It is, you need to kind of understand what do you do in-house, or what do you outsource right now for what kind of price and what can you do in-house. And that's what we are doing, or that's what MTS Medical is actually doing for all of their machines. So a lot of parts that were outsourced are now produced in-house. A lot of housings, for example, and other spare parts. One interesting project, for example, is the illustration in the middle. So it's a housing that needs to contain water. So that means the housing needs to be watertight. Why is there water? The water is the cooling medium for the machines, for example. And what they also needed is a specific translucent to see the water level, and that's why we chose TUF 1500. But we have a material library of over 45 materials, meaning nylon 12 is a great fit. It can be also maybe ESD or flame retardant resin. The option is wide. It's really depending on your medical device that you use or that you want to produce and the mechanical properties that you need actually. And then we got also, of course, medical supply stores. In Germany, we call them Sanitätshäuser. One big chain is the Kriva GmbH in North Germany. They have 7 Sanitätshäuser, so 7 orthotic supply stores, for example. And as you can see over here, they have both technologies, SLS as well as SLA. For the SLA technology, they use it for the upper extremity devices, as you can see over here with TUF 1500 for patient-specific orthotics, and nylon 11 for the lower extremities, for example, AFOs or pediatric AFOs or rigid insole shells. And what I like over here is especially, for example, that nothing is based on foam actually. Everything is like all the medical supply stores got scanners, foot scanners, where they get a lot of biomechanical values. And with this said, I want to invite you later on to the afterwork event at Formlabs in Berlin. Feel free to come around and listen to one guy that I really look up to from the Scherer Hospital. He's going to push healthcare, I'm quite sure, within the next years with all the ideas that he has. And he has a lot in the pipeline, and it's going to be super interesting. So therefore, if you want to drink a beer and listen to an interesting presentation, I invite you to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shiden. And I think there are also some questions, and you know how it works. Write them down in Slido, and Shiden is taking place there. Thank you so much, because we are going to discuss your questions after the next presentation. This will be given by Joachim von Arnim. He's manager and director at Cellbricks, and he's going to talk about perspectives of organ generation and tissue engineering for point of care. The floor is yours, Am.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. In this conference, you heard a lot about 3D printing. That's the reason of the conference. Now, I'm really going to show you what is the next level, because most of the 3D printing is on non-living materials, and I'm going to tell you more about bioprinting. So why is this relevant? Well, to sum it up in, let's say, 30 years, each of you will have a family member or a friend who will be cured with the technology that I'm presenting today. We all grow older, and parts of the human body start to fail. And if it's heart parts, there are amazing opportunities, as we've just seen in the previous presentations. When you have bone defects, you can have certain implants. When you can have ceramics, metals. The thing is, if the soft parts of the human body, especially those who have an organ function, fail, the world looks a lot different. It starts from tissues which sound fairly simple, like cartilage, and goes all the way to organs like liver or pancreas or kidney. And replicating those tissues is not trivial. Having a technology which can do that is really not trivial. Because if you want to replicate tissue, you can't just take all the cells which make up an organ, put them in a jar, and magically you'll have a piece of liver tissue. No, you need to biofabricate it. And the requirements for such a technology are really conflicting, right? You need to have a very high precision. You need to be able to work with multiple cell types which are discretely from each other positioned on one hand. On the other hand, you don't just want to produce a tiny snippet of tissue, like liver tissue, for example. No, you want to create tissue at a size that it can have a therapeutic benefit in a patient. And that's what we've solved. And the way how we do that is we use light-based 3D bioprinting. So it is, on the fundamental level, similar to the SLA which we've just seen. It's stereolithography. But basically, since we introduce cells into it, living cells, it really goes to the next level. I always say like it's probably like tenfold as tricky as already normal bioprinting is. So what is the process? We take the cells in therapeutic applications as patient cells. We immerse them in a bioink, which is we could call it a resin, that is extracellular matrix, so basically what glues the cells in our body together. In the past and currently it's mostly derived from animals, so aka gelatin, but since we want to go into the human body, we've also developed our own, let's call it vegan collagen, recombinant collagen bioink. So you have the cells, you put them in the bioink, you put the bioink in the bioprinter. I don't need to explain to you how 3D printing works, and then you can create live tissue. One thing which is very important, if you print living tissue and you want to give that into patients, of course, you're not anymore probably so much in the space of medical devices. You're also going towards pharma. So it's not just medical devices, but especially GMP. So this is how our machine, which is just the core, just one part of it, looks like. Just to show, this is basically, let's see if the video works. Yep. So this is a prototype video just to demonstrate, it's a bit older, how the process works. So you have a classical stereolithography. The light hits the resin. In our case, it's a bioink. It's illuminated, and where the light hits, it solidifies. I don't need to explain you that. But what is special about our process is that we can do multiple materials, because the human body consists of multiple cell types, right? You have, let's say, liver cells, and you have next to it vasculature that needs to be discrete from each other. And that's what we've solved. And again, not just for like non-living materials, but for living materials. At the very end, now you can see in this very simple demonstration, ta-da, there's our company logo. So you have parts where you have cells and parts where you have another cell type. This is basically how it looks in pictograms. So you have the bioinks, you have the cells submerged in it, and then you print by changing the bath and thereby create a very complex tissue. Two things are important to note. The first is bioprinting. The printer, which I've just shown you, is just one part of it. That is the machine where it happens. But if you have a bioprinter, you're not able to recreate like living tissue or let alone organ tissue, because the printer is just one part of it. Similarly, and we've just heard it before, material science. Like you need to have a very deep understanding of what we call the bioinks, the biomaterials, which engulf where the cells are in. And then you need to have a really good understanding of what you're actually trying to build, and that's tissue engineering. And this is something which is very unique about our company, because right from the beginning, we had the tech development, which means hardware, software, process, the biomaterials, the bioinks, which is chemistry, and then the tissue engineering, all in one house, all in one lab. And this is kind of unique when we look at our market companions. The second thing which I want to note is 3D printing in the past, as you all know, as you're all familiar with, has been a technology for prototyping in the beginning. And now it really moves, like in the non-medical space, it's in every car. In the medical space, if you talk about metal or plastic printing, it's really pushing into the standard healthcare. We want to do the same for bioprinting. But therefore, you need a technology which really enables you to be very precise with multiple cell types, but at a large scale. And that's what we do with multi-material DLP bioprinting. We have shown that with a lot of scientific publications that we can print a vast array of different tissues. And one of the key things in printing living tissue and recreating living tissue is vasculature. If you don't have vasculature, you print something and it fairly quickly dies off. So this is one of the capabilities which we've mastered. And now for the last 3 minutes, I'm going to focus on 2 areas where we apply this technology that we have developed. The first is going to be breast reconstruction, and the second is chronic liver disease. 1 in 8 women is hit with breast cancer during her lifetime. It is the major, biggest threat for women's health. And if women encounter breast cancer, the usual therapy is a surgery. So between 30 and 50% of women will get the breast tissue removed. And there's a natural desire to recreate the bodily intactness. Current solutions out there for the non-expert, they sound good. If you talk to patients, if you talk to clinicians, what is currently used for breast reconstruction is really not good. It is either silicone implants, which is very unnatural, it's a foreign object, it needs to be replaced every 10 to 15 years, or it's a very complex, long flap surgery where you take a part of healthy tissue from the thigh, from the belly, and remodel it into a breast. And what we want to do with our technology is enable a live implant where we take patient cells, bioprint a living breast fat tissue implant that is implanted as almost as easy as a silicone implant, but as natural as if you would take a tissue transplant from another part of the human body. So this is the journey, how we start with something small, we prove that we can do it in small. We've done that, so you can see this tiny bit of breast fat tissue. And currently we're in the process of scaling that up, and that's why we've built an amazing consortium with Charité, University Clinic Tübingen, Heidelberg, and UKSAC here, and are funded by the Federal Ministry of Education and Research. This is then, in the end, how it's somehow supposed to look like. This is the vision which drives us. The second part, looking at the clock, is chronic liver disease. The liver is the one organ, if it fails, life fails. There is no liver dialysis. There's no equivalent of insulin injections. If the liver fails, life fails. And it's a growing problem. As we all, as Western or global population get more and more obese, chronic liver disease go up. And it affects this enormous number of 1.5 billion people. So what do? When we started, we looked at the organ, at the liver, and said, look, what's the smallest functional unit of this organ? It's the liver lobulus. We've modeled it, we bioprinted it, and we've shown that this tiny piece of liver is more representative than if you just have liver cells in a flask, in a petri dish. So this is interesting for pharma research because they can replace animal trials with it. But now we go one step further, and what we now do is we go all the way backwards. That's where we have also a lot of support from the German government. We now take our ability to print small pieces of liver and stack them together to really create a last piece of liver. And that leaves me in the last 20 seconds talking about point of care. Our vision is that in every hospital around the globe, at some point, you're going to have a room similar to what we've seen before, where not just like ceramics and plastics are printed, but actually where live, soft, and organ tissue is printed. And this, at the beginning, sounds fantastic, but also like a miracle. But in the beginning, a CT machine was super rare. MRI machine was super rare. Now it is in every hospital. And that's how we believe the future is going to be. In every hospital around the world, you're going to have, in the basement or the building next to it, a biofabrication unit where you can create patient-specific soft and organ tissue to help cure patients. And this is the amazing team which is making that possible. And I'm looking forward to the questions.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Joachim, for this impressive speech, especially about in the field I'm not familiar with. It's really impressive, and I think there are some questions, and we have time to discuss them. So let's start. Let's start with the first question to Shiden. I think, how do you estimate your printers in healthcare by counting medical materials activations via chip in a cartridge, or how does that work?
Let me read the question again. How do you estimate your printers in healthcare? By counting medical materials actions via chip in the cartridge? No, we have a system where we can see how much units we have sold. So from that kind of perspective, I think it's based on what kind of install base we have. Of course, we know that.
There we have the question.
Perfect,
so
thank you. Now I can see them, yeah.
That's easier.
So that's why I know the install base that we have. And from that base, it's easy to pull up the numbers.
Okay. And I think this next question is for you, Joachim. What is the regulatory framework for bioprinted tissue? Do you know that?
Yes, it's a good question. It's not clear yet. We are certainly not a very traditional medical device, as I said. So it depends on the specific solution, but most of our solutions, as I said, incorporate patient cells. So thereby we are in this like weird combination device. But this is one of the questions which we're currently working with academic partners, also like legal experts to really figure out, and also then discussions with the regulatory bodies to really figure out where exactly are we positioned in. But in general, I mean, like we have medical devices, you have ATMPs, and this is basically the range, but I would say we're rather in the ATMP field.
Yeah, this is, I think that's the answer also to the next question, the regulatory framework. No, where is that? There was another question with legal. No, it's away. It's away. Okay, it's fine. So let's go to the next question. I'm sorry, there was another question, but now it's gone away. In which phase of clinical trials is this technology? It was very impressive by all the pictures and the idea, and it was clearly understandable.
We are very clearly in preclinical right now.
Really?
So in the field of bioprinting in general, there are already like clinical trials going on. Usually not in Germany, it's rather in the United States, Australia, Israel. So we as a company are preclinical right now. It is still a fairly young, industry, but it will have a massive impact. So really, once the first bioprinted therapeutic, is fully approved at a larger scale, it's really the dam is gonna burst open.
Yeah. Shiden, maybe you can answer that question to what is the specificity of work with non-lift solutions, or is this also a question for you, Joachim?
I think it's
you.
Is this related to the applications? I mean, if we are talking about the applications are broad. If we are talking about the orthotic and prosthetic space, if we are talking about point of care applications, from surgical instruments, autognetic splints, but also, of course, a lot of research and development that has been done with the printers. So therefore, I think the range and the application is
broad.
Is quite broad, and that's why it's ongoing and it's pushing innovation.
Yeah, there is my last question. What is your experience with the legal requirements? And I think you already answered that question. Is there anything to add, maybe from your side?
Yeah, from our side, definitely. So what I can say is we have FDA and MDR cleared workflows. We have medical device manufacturers right now with medical devices on the market which are cleared. So therefore, it can definitely be done, and we are more than willing to help from our side as much as we can. But of course, there's also work on the medical device manufacturing side or the hospital side. So people need to be familiar based on the region that they sell to with their regulations. But we are more than willing to support them in any kind of stage, and it is possible. From there on, we are a motivated partner if it comes to that.
Yeah, and you already can show that, huh?
Yes, definitely.
Real life, yeah. Are you scientists working on implantable grade resins? I think this is a question for you too.
We have that in mind, definitely. If we would not look into it, we would sleep. We are not sleeping at Formlabs, that's what I can tell you. So therefore, nothing is available right now. I'm going to repeat it again. Everything around an implant is manufactured right now, but as we can see with photopolymers, it is possible to have implantable materials available, and that's why we, of course, investigate.
Okay, thank you. A lot of questions. There was one I'm very interested in. What kind of photo initiators do you use? Do you see a problem with UV-based initiating next to human cells? That's another question.
Sneaky two questions into one, like that. So, I mean, there's a broad range of photo initiators. If you look at tissue engineering, probably LIP is one of the most common ones. But there are also others out there. So we look at them broadly, but certainly LIP is one of the most used ones. The second one is, well, that's why we don't use traditional UV. We use near UV light. So it is this balancing act, right? You need to activate the photoinitiators, so therefore you need to be in that range, but also you don't want to harm cells. And we figured out that using near UV light basically gives us the sweet spot where we can prove that the cells are not affected by it on one hand, but then on the other hand we still have the photoactivation.
Yeah, yeah. And the next question is very interesting, I think. How do you tackle the challenge to cultivate different type of cells that a complete organ consists of?
Really,
it was a question I also had when I was listening to your speech.
Really good question. Let me answer the question twofold. The first is, and that is one of the advantages when looking at soft tissue for breast reconstruction. First of all, there's this gigantic medical need. The second is, of course, we build up on existing procedures. So basically, liposuction, getting fat cells and all the connective tissue cells from a patient for breast reconstruction is already a procedure which is used. The end result is not great, but it is a procedure which is used every day. So that's basically where we build up on. Of course, if you talk about organ tissue, that is really where we're then partnering with other industry titans to really move this forward, because that field in itself is already, it is a large field. And that's
working on progress.
And that's where we partner, because we have this capability of combining cells, but of course there are people out there who have, can honestly say, far more experience in cultivating large amounts of cells, but they don't know what to do once they have the cells. Like they can't put
bring it together.
So it's basically a very synergetic.
Okay,
structure.
Okay, very interesting, yeah. And 30K machines in the field is very impressive, Shiden. Do you track how many are actively in use at any one time, and do you know how many are used in medical settings?
So do we track actively? To be honest with you, Dan, I need to follow up with the other department to see if we are following up on this, but I think it's not completely possible, but to a certain extent. We can see where orders are coming in and maybe from what kind of company, and then we can kind of see from which kind of medical sector they're specifically in. And what was the other one? And do you know how many are used in the medical settings? I would say 3/5 belongs to dental.
Okay.
But the rest is in medical settings. So dental is also medical, but
a majority in dentists.
Yeah,
and
but the rest is still huge. And I would say
a large minority.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Joachim, could you produce contracting muscle cells?
Yes. Short answer, yes. Longer answer or mid-size answer is, of course, like basically every tissue engineer at some point took some heart cells and imprinted them into a hydrogel, and you could see after a while they sync up, and then basically you have like a piece of hydrogel which is contracting in sync. Okay. So you can also produce muscles. Have we done it like besides this this show off experiment a while ago? No, we don't focus on that, but certainly we
it's
can.
Possible.
Yeah.
Interesting. That leads to the next question, very nicely formulated. You said the cell implants are almost as easy to implant as silicone implants. Please explain almost.
Yeah, happy to do so. Well, if you've spoken with surgeons about how silicone implants are implanted, they're very tough, the silicone implants, right? So usually you want to try to reduce the size of the scar. Ideally you don't have any scar, but if you use silicone implants, basically you really squeeze this implant to a tiny opening, which is the size of a €2 coin. Mm-hmm. You force this silicone implant through that. This is like there's a lot of force applied. If you've fabricated a live tissue, a hydrogel with cells and vasculature in it, we want to make it, we do make it as rigid or as tough enough that surgeons can handle it. Can we have a live tissue which can be forced through a tiny hole? Well, that's something I'm not fully there yet. So,
but almost.
Yeah, almost.
Thank you. That leads us to a last question to Shiden. What kind of support does Formlabs provide to the hospitals for compliance, or is this up to hospitals to navigate this on their own?
That's a good question. So if we are looking into MDR Article 5.5, I would say, of course, the hospital is in that case the manufacturer, and the hospital is definitely the one that needs to navigate it. But on the other side, with Formlabs, you have a healthcare partner that can help you to navigate the right direction. Meaning, for example, we got IQ, OQ, PQ documents available that we can give you to kind of understand how do I calibrate the machines. Let's say you use a form cure, like curing photopolymers is super important and it's also affecting the biocompatibility. But how do you know that the form cure is still giving out the same wavelength? So we have documents, for example, available showing how to use a photodiode sensor, how to measure or how to calibrate the form cure, and how to make sure that everything, that the whole workflow, the whole solution that we give is regulated actually.
So you support that.
So we got documents, and also, of course, from our material perspective, we got the ISO 13485 that we can prove. We got the clean room environment where we produce our materials. We had an inspection from the Berlin government even this year in, I think it was in April, July, that we needed to do. Shelf life tracking, temperature control in the warehouse. We did everything. So they came up to me and, for example, said, okay, Shiden, this is batch number XYZ. Show me to who you sent those batches to. And then we could prove, for example, hey, we can backtrack everything and we are traceable in what we do. And that's why I think we are a good healthcare partner.
Okay, thank you.